It's kind of amazing how much damage marketing and reputation can do to a character. Since WarioWare, and especially after the trailer for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Wario's been known for being an obnoxious oaf whose defining character trait is his ability to weaponize flatulence. When discussing why Wario wasn't in New Super Mario Bros. Wii in favor of the almighty Buckenberry, Shigeru Miyamoto stated that they would have to include a farting animation in order for Wario to be a character. Now, while I don't mind this characterization, Wario's always been a rude, crude dude with attitude, and that gives him a stronger visual identity toward the weird-out style of WarioWare. It's a shame that the bumbling, infinitely greedy, treasure-hunting egotist that he was during his formative years has been phased out of his DNA. What's especially frustrating is, in his first playable appearance, Wario created perhaps the greatest contrast to Mario ever seen. No parody, homage, or joke could ever capture how Wario created an antithesis to everything Mario was by just taking a stroll through Wario Land's first world, Rice Beach. Mario's platformers are pretty straightforward. You've got Mario, who jumps on stuff to beat it unless it's got spikes, starts small but gains power-ups that grant him new abilities, and has a run button so that the player can carefully adjust Mario's momentum and fly through obstacle courses from one end to another, with the occasional fortress or ghost house having a maze of doors to mix things up. It's a formula that more than a fair share of platformers follow, and for good reason. But when Wario hits the scene, wah! Already big and powered up, without any sort of run in sight. Wario doesn't need to go through levels like Mario. He's big, he's tough, and will basically bully any enemy into submission. He does have this neat shoulder bash that makes him go a little faster, but it's pretty short range, and chaining one bash after another takes away some of Wario's control. Something Mario doesn't have any problem with his regular run. So, controller test aside, Wario ends up coming across his first enemy. Naturally, a player's first instinct is to jump at it, seeing as that's how you beat enemies in every Mario game, and this rounded, armless thing looks pretty squishable. When they do, they'll be amazed as Wario's massive bulk doesn't actually kill the enemy. Heck, even if they just run into this enemy, a player won't take damage. Wario's way too strong for a little nudge like that to bother him. Instead, the enemy is flipped over, and running into them in this state causes Wario to pick him up. This shows a core difference between the playstyles of Mario and Wario. For Mario, enemies are obstacles, things to be avoided, and occasionally used as platforms or tools. For Wario, enemies are toys, things to be used as platforms or tools, and to occasionally be avoided. This proves true with the Pirate Goom to follow, who can actually hurt Wario with his tiny spear, but is perfect target practice for Wario's throw. If you do get hit, however, Wario reverts to a tiny form, and Tiny Wario sucks. He doesn't have a charge move, which eliminates his ability to break obstacles or get coins out of enemies. This also has the inverse effect of locking Wario at a painfully slow walking speed, making him feel vulnerable and, well, just bad to control. Even as a good small boy, Mario can still run and perform platforming as usual. You can play Super Mario Bros. In the same way even if you're tiny, just perhaps with a bit more caution. Wario is the opposite. He's designed around being big, and taking that away from him makes the game agonizing until you can find a power-up to fix it. Power-ups like Bowl Wario, accessed here by waddling underneath these blocks and hitting it from below. Now, that may seem like a silly detail, needing Wario to slowly crouch in order to access the block with the power-up.
It's actually super important.
It reflects perhaps Wario Land's biggest departure from the Mario series, its focus on exploration. For Mario, power-ups are usually placed within the natural flow of the level, being fairly easy and obvious for the player to get. While Wario Land does place them similarly, The first requires extra effort to get, and is lumped in with a bunch of generic blocks, which encourages the player to take their time and explore. The fact that Wario naturally ducks when approaching the small gap also encourages crouching, an action that's very rarely used in the Mario series. Add in needing to charge enemies in order to mug them for valuable coins, an insanely generous time limit, and multiple secret areas to discover in the first level alone, and Wario is more about playing with the level than playing the level. Heck, there's even an area that's impossible to get through on the first go around the level, requiring you to beat the beach's boss in order to cause a major environmental change to get through. This level of interconnectivity and world exploration isn't just unheard of for Mario, it's outright antithetical to Mario's charge through the obstacle course gameplay. Then again, the fact that Wario can't just charge through shows yet another massive gameplay deviation between the two. Mario is all about horizontal control, with good play being rewarded with stronger and more confident vertical finesse. Mario's run speed is never compromised like Wario's. Mario controls like Mario on the ground 100% of the time. Jumping feels rewarding in Mario, and power-ups like the Fire Flower complement this by giving Mario the ability to strike at different altitudes. Wario, meanwhile, has a super tiny Game Boy screen to work with that his floaty jump can go all around in. Going up is rarely a problem or a focus in Wario Land, and due to jumping not being an offensive measure, hopping around just isn't all that rewarding. Wario's power-ups increase his horizontal power, giving him the ability to go faster, but nothing illustrates this contrast better than the flight power-ups. A huge burst of liberation and free control in both games. When Mario nabs a raccoon leaf for a super cape, he takes to the skies, going high above the level in a wonderful vertical ascent. When Wario gets his jet hat, he charges forward in order to defy gravity, enjoying a burst of speed straight ahead. Both give off the thrill of flight, but in completely opposite ways, and going on totally different axes. But perhaps most ever present in its contrast is the game's tone. Everything that Super Mario Land 2 sets up, fantastic worlds brimming with creativity and energy, Wario Land decides to replace with plodding puzzles and a chance to be outright mean to either Wario or the world around him. Bonus games, which had largely been fairly simple and charming line puzzles or crane games in the previous Mario Land titles, are replaced with a pure chance game that revels in hurting Wario at every opportunity, and a finicky bomb-throwing game that takes a lot of time to learn. Both of these games also come at a cost to the player, the coins that they need to progress in the game and get better endings, thus making them more exercises in gambling than straight-up bonuses to reward the player. In this level, you're chased by this angry not-a-thwomp, horizontally I might add, rather than their usual vertical, and then have to ride it over... I think that's lava? I'm gonna say lava. This further reinforces the idea of using your enemies, but these power-ups also seem to punish greed. Wario's sprite is just so dang big and the screen is so comparatively small, there's just barely enough time to hit the block, spawn the power-up, jump on the block, and jump back onto the not-thwomp, unless you're already Tiny Wario, or you're already anticipating the block and this annoying enemy nearby. Even the music gets in on this action, with most songs being a remix of the same slow, monotonous theme, which itself is actually a variation of the bright, energetic, athletic theme from Super Mario Land 2. Don't believe me? Well, take a listen. All that Mario does, every convention that Mario follows, Wario flips on its head and either beats it up or is beaten up for it. It's this kind of anti-Mario design and ideas that ended up establishing the tone of the Wario Land series as a whole. Wario Land 2 takes its non-linearity to a whole new level, with multiple ways to exit levels and find complex, branching paths through the game. And it changes all power-ups to Wario just getting beaten up, or becoming drunk. Wario Land 3 just drives this in further, seeming to bully the player at every turn, and waste their time with a world that just seems to hate the fact that Wario exists. But all of this strong characterization through just gameplay and tone came from a simple stroll down Rice Beach, with nary a sign of flatulence or random microgame. With so many games offering homages to other titles or different playable characters, hopefully they can take a look at the original master of twisting a concept beyond recognition for inspiration. Though he may just be a smelly game tycoon today, Wario still holds the key to design for contrast. Wow.
Here I go!